It's called La Frontera Olvidada, the forgotten border. Not the one in the headlines between Mexico and the U.S. This one is in the south, dividing Mexico from Guatemala and Belize. An estimated 2 million individuals cross it every year. For those with proper papers, it's legal. But just down the river, an unknown number of them arrive illegally. So while we're focused on the crackdown of U.S. officials on illegal Mexican immigrants up north, the uncontrolled traffic along this southern border has given Mexico its own set of immigration problems. Just ask the folks from Central America who regularly, and sometimes openly, slip across this border without papers. Once here in Mexico, many are robbed, raped, beaten, and blackmailed. And they say their attackers range from petty thieves to organized crime to Mexican law enforcement officials themselves.
The police see you crossing the river and they wait for you. You have to give them money. Otherwise, they hand you over to the immigration authorities and they send you back.
I've been robbed twice. We were all forced to take our clothes off so they can get our money. When they attacked us, they also raped a girl who was traveling with us.
These men arrived about a week ago. None has a visa. Tell me where you come from.
Guatemala.
Guatemala?
Honduras. Salvador.
Salvador?
Nicaragua.
If they want to stay in Mexico, they can apply for a visa. That requires a job, a Mexican spouse, or Mexican children. And some do stay. Back at home in Central America, average incomes are under $3,000 a year. Here in Mexico, it's more than $8,000. But that's only a tiny fraction of what they could make in the United States. So many more just passing through, seeking bigger bucks and an even better life. Where do you want to go from here?
Miami, Florida.
Las Vegas.
Las Vegas?
Yep.
Okay.
Houston.
Houston?
Virginia.
Virginia. These men have made their way to the town of Arriaga, a 3-hour drive or 7-day walk from the Guatemala border. Because this is where the freight lines begin, the only free ride north to other parts of Mexico and towards the U.S. border. But climbing up top leads to a perilous journey. They must cling to the cars on the outside, and since no one knows when the train leaves, the immigrants just hang out and hope. Like the United States, Mexico is trying to crack down on the influx of illegal immigrants. Here in Chiapas, Mexico's southernmost state, some 40,000 are detained and deported each year. Police don't have enough forces to patrol these train tracks, but we encountered immigration checkpoints on every main road, a constant government presence that some find intrusive.
The government is only trying to contain migration without acknowledging that migration is a part of the development of any country.
Fermina Rodriguez runs the Fray Matias de Cordova Center for Human Rights in Tapachula on the Guatemala border. She focuses on those who stay here in Mexico, a personal mission, since her own parents arrived without documents when she was a child. At the town plaza in Tapachula, Fermina informs immigrants, mostly young women, of their rights. Here, she agreed to help a teenage domestic worker from Guatemala, whose Mexican employer refused to pay what they'd agreed on. Most of these girls get 1,500 pesos, just over $100 a month, as live-in cooks, laundresses, and cleaners. This maid says she works 16 hours a day. Do immigrants face discrimination here?
Yes, especially for women. People don't think migrants can do anything but domestic service. And when it comes to the men, they think they come to steal jobs.
But the immigrant men do take jobs from the Mexicans.
No, because the jobs the migrants do are jobs the local men don't want because the pay is so low and the conditions are terrible.
So it's exactly the same situation as what happens on the northern border when Mexicans go into the United States.
Yes, exactly. It's like a chain. The Mexicans go take jobs in the United States that the Americans don't want. Then the jobs that open up here in Mexico, the Central Americans come do.
The Mexican government says it's concerned about the treatment of migrants. It recently dropped criminal penalties for illegal immigrants, although they still face deportation. And an arm of the immigration service called Grupo Beta protects the health and welfare of migrants, legal or not. They troll train tracks and other places, passing out water, first aid, and advice to those who've been assaulted or robbed, helping migrants file complaints, even if it's against the officials themselves.
We have some bad individuals in the police force as well as within the immigration service.
Jorge Izar Dominguez heads the immigration service in Chiapas.
But if we discover that someone has committed a crime against a migrant, we will come down on them with the full force of the law. That's why we try to facilitate the process, to avoid these people falling prey to criminals.
That's not what we heard from many of the migrants. This woman from El Salvador was sexually assaulted one night. And what happened to the person who assaulted you?
Well, nothing happened.
Although her family is now together, she's not sure she wants to stay. And this group of Hondurans was robbed as they crossed the border. On their way, they hoped, to Miami. For this would-be immigrant, that was enough.
The United States is the dream, where we all want to be, but now I'm going back. We can't go on. Instead of staying here and suffering, I'd rather go back to my country.
I'm Lynn Sherr in Tapachula, Mexico for Worldfocus.